Assalamu alaikum. You're watching the special transmission of PTV World regarding the visit of the Prime Minister to United States of America. Prime Minister is going to visit USA and he's going to be there for 3 days, where he's not only going to meet the President of USA, Donald Trump, but also is going to meet the other members there as well, the Pakistani community also, and he's going to talk to them as well. Now, interestingly, currently the Prime Minister was in Doha, where he also held a very important meeting with the CEO of Qatar Airlines, and from there he's going to proceed as it was a transit. Now, Shah Mahmood Qureshi is already there, a couple of other ministers, as well as the Chief of Army Staff and the DG ISI is also accompanying the Prime Minister. It seems that the major agenda is going to be about the case of Pakistan regarding the fight against terror, and whatever sacrifices Pakistan has done so far, I think they should be told to the current American president. And on the other hand, obviously, when we talk about the Pak-Afghan issue or the peace in Afghanistan for that matter, that is going to be the top priority. Other than that, war against terror is going to be another very significant area of discussion between the two leaders. And other than that, we are also pretty sure that the trade volume needs to be enhanced and it has to be taken to a different level now. Pakistan and USA, they've been trading partners for a very long time and one of the highest practically between the two countries as far as Pakistan is concerned. Now, the important features of his visit, the important areas of discussion, and what exactly do we have in our mind which we need to tell to the American president? And are we talking about some concessions, or maybe are we also looking at some sort of a military aid, or are we actually looking at cutting down the trust deficit? That seems to be the major problem between the two countries. Though the Prime Minister Imran Khan and on multiple occasions have very categorically mentioned that the current relationship with Pakistan and USA is pretty okay, but it can be much better. Once there was the strategic partnership, then later on it became transsectional, but currently it is not that great. But let's see where it heads from this particular point. This is going to be the first official meeting between the two leaders, first official visit of the Prime Minister to the United States of America, and let's see what sort of a deal is made out there. To talk about this, let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio. On my right is Professor Dr. Rifat Hussain Saab. Dr. Saab, thank you very much for being a part of our show. Obviously, you need no introduction, senior strategist, senior international affairs expert. We also have with us Ambassador Asif Durrani Saab, senior diplomat. Sir, thank you very much for taking out your time as well. And we have with us Tariq Pirzada Saab, senior political commentator. Sir, thank you very much. Now, first of all, sir, straight question. Khan Saab now is going to visit the United States of America, first visit of the Prime Minister, 3-day official visit where he is going to have one-on-one meeting with the US President Donald Trump. Now, a lot of similarities, a lot of interesting characters, a lot has been talked about in our media, in their media as well. But now, sir, talking about the actual issues, for example, Afghanistan seems to be the most important one, and the current situation about the withdrawal, about the talks which are going on between the Taliban and the Afghan government, or the Americans for that matter, and the role of Pakistan. Let's start off from there, sir. Your take on that.
Well, you can look at this visit in terms of the three main factors. One is the level of personal chemistry, or would-be personal chemistry between the Prime Minister and the American President Trump. The second will be the issues. What are the subjects of conversation between the two countries? Not only in terms of the bilateral meeting, but subsequently the meeting that will be held in the cabinet room along with their advisors. So that's going to be a critical factor. And the third will be the outcome of this visit. What should we expect to emerge out of this interaction, which has been long overdue? As you know, that Pakistan's relationship with the United States has been almost in a free fall, where the Americans have imposed sanctions, they have threatened Pakistan, they have cut off all military aid, and they have stopped the supply of weapons to Pakistan. So Pakistan feels that it has been put in the dock as far as the Americans are concerned. But now, for the past 6 or 8 months, ever since the beginning of the Doha process, there has been a revival of American interest to take Pakistan very seriously. And in that context, when Senator Lindsey Graham who came to Pakistan, he was very vocal and he was very concerned about the state of relationship
Between the two countries,
between
yeah?
the two countries, and he wanted to do something to improve this. So I think finally the Trump administration has come to a realization that without Pakistan's cooperation, without addressing Pakistan's security concerns, whether they relate to Afghanistan, whether they relate to CPAC, whether they relate to the India-Pakistan relationship, there is a need for resetting this relationship, and it's in that context that this visit has to be seen. But as I said, the personal chemistry, if they hit it off well, we should expect an outcome which will be a win-win situation for both countries. But if for some reason Mr. Trump, who has a large element of unpredictability attached to his personality, if the chemistry doesn't go down well, then we will be facing a situation of an impasse. But I would like to see that there is we have two strong leaders. Both of them are very convinced about the philosophy that guides their foreign policy. Trump is known to be a transactionalist, but our Prime Minister is trying to pursue a principled policy. And in that context, he would like to frame Pakistan's approach to the Afghan peace process, and that's going to be the major item on the agenda. But there are other items on the agenda, like, for example, improving trade relationship, encouraging American investment, and tourism, and the technological cooperation and aid and state relationship. And of utmost importance is going to be the future of intelligence cooperation between Pakistan and the United States in the context of the American decision to withdraw from Afghanistan.
I think that is going to be the major agenda also. But sir, Durrani sir, looking at the two leaders, very unorthodox, very different than most. Both are anti this traditional politicians. And I mean, if you look at Imran Khan, we all know what he's been up to. When you talk about Donald Trump, he has his own agenda, his own objective. But primarily, it seems that Donald Trump, no matter he is good, bad, or ugly for the rest of the world, but the Americans love him, most of them. In case of Imran Khan, the youth is following him, and a lot of people have trusted him despite all the odds at the moment. Both are in power for the first time, sir, and meeting for the first time. So how do you sort of conceive that idea, sir? Your take.
Well, you have said it so, because these are the personalities who matter, and they are unorthodox personalities. So definitely they'll make a difference. But ultimately, it's the institutional relationship which matters in the conduct of bilateral diplomacy between two countries, irrespective of which those two countries are. And Professor Rifat Hussain has already given us a tour de horizon of the overall agenda and how those are likely to be pursued. My take is that Afghanistan is going to occupy the good part of this trip, because it is primarily Afghanistan which has become the reason for this invitation. And it is the development on Afghanistan, positive developments rather, which have encouraged the two sides to deal further and how to talk about and do something about stability returning to Afghanistan. A lot of work has been done. America and Taliban are talking, and the Americans owe it to Pakistan, and they very much acknowledge that Pakistan has a lot of contribution in convincing the Taliban that they should come to the negotiating table and talk sense. Then if you look at other aspects of Afghanistan, then at the regional level, the Taliban have been approached by Russia, China. Of course, Iran is also there. And then the recent 4 countries meeting, Russia, China, United States, and Pakistan in Beijing, and their joint statement also speaks volumes about the contribution, positive contribution made by Pakistan. So therefore, the reason which became actually a sore point in Pakistan-US relationship was Afghanistan, and they had complaints about Pakistan. But Pakistan has shown them the direction, because United States were banking on a military solution in Afghanistan, while Pakistan was against having a military solution in Afghanistan, and Pakistan at the institutional level and at the leadership
And Imran
level.
Khan has always said that this is a very counter-productive.
Correct. At the leadership level, this was, we were trying to pursue the Americans that they should follow the reconciliation process. And I think that has given us dividends. So in my view, other issues definitely will be discussed. But Afghanistan has shown progress. Americans are happy about it, because for President Trump, the businessman he is, for him, it is the saving of $50 billion per annum in Afghanistan if the American troops withdraw and if they stop their military actions in Afghanistan. So it's a win-win situation.
So will they also be talking about the post-exit scenario, sir?
They should be, because the issue is from Pakistan side, my suggestion would be that we should emphasize that their precipitous withdrawal would cause disaster in Afghanistan. It is better to have an agreement, a peace agreement, and they should have, then they should also chalk out a strategy whereby for a number of years, Afghanistan will have to be assisted economically, financially, as well as through the institutions, so that country can sustain. Afghanistan's security forces are to be supported. Right now, United States is bearing almost 90% of Afghan armed forces budget. So how this is going to come? So there are many, many issues. And then what would be the role of the United Nations once the United States withdraws from Afghanistan? Right now, at the policy level, at the administrative level, at the military level, United States is calling the shots. Despite the fact that we say that there is a civil government in Afghanistan, but it's the money which speaks.
Obviously, and it has been said on numerous occasions that, Afghanistan can't even survive for 6 months. Said by the own president, actually. So now coming to you, Firdauss Sahab, 2-3 important points. A, because definitely we would like to see that, issues of Pakistan should be the first priority rather than Afghanistan. But in this case, obviously, because that is the most important issue at the moment, and since a lot of work has been done in that regard also, role of Pakistan cannot be separated, obviously. Finally, they have recognized the importance of Pakistan. Now the Prime Minister, who has always been someone who has criticized the use of military in that area, use of drones for that matter, sir, and the only way forward he always talked about was to restart the negotiation process, and that has started in Doha. So far, it seems that it is very productive. But sir, one important area, whenever we talk about Afghan-led, Afghan-owned kind of procedure, that is not possible. It is the American-owned, American-operated, and the Americans should be in confidence primarily, sir. Do you think, sir, this time the Americans are serious in sorting out the Afghan issue? Because their presence or their absence, we all understand what sort of a difference it can make. But as long as they are there, sir, do you think they have actually realized that it was absolutely counterproductive, and the objectives they earlier had in their mind after 9/11, they have almost achieved? There is no more Al-Qaeda. It's right in front of you. I mean, if you want to sort of dismantle the entire setup of Taliban, that seems to be an impossible cause, because they have the support at the grassroots level, sir. And a lot of landlords are also, and the warlords are also supporting them, sir.
There's one interesting thing, let me start from there. It has to deal with Afghanistan. That the November election next year is very critical for this man, Donald J. Trump. Very critical. And so far, including North Korea, he has no foreign policy achievement that he can sell in the US market. So far. There has not been a failure in North Korea, but this is not a success either. The only country where he can really positively brag about in his election come November next year is Afghanistan, and this is one great reason. And as opposed to all other presidents who have preceded him, no matter what we say about Donald Trump, he's not a warmonger. He can talk warmongering, but he's not actually. Look at Syria. He abandoned the whole damn country.
So when he took charge,
Hold
I
on,
mean, if you
hold on.
remember, more than 100 missiles were fired
Yeah,
on
that's fine, but
Syria.
that's not
Mother of all
warmongering.
bombs was used in
We
Afghanistan.
are talking about going into the countries, occupying them, like Afghanistan, like Iraq, like any other country. He's not that type. He has been very, consistent on this issue. But it suits him to withdraw U.S. forces from Afghanistan. If Pakistan can provide enough political and goodwill assistance and other assistance in the case of Afghanistan following the withdrawal of U.S. forces, this is one great issue that will be discussed in Washington. I think the relations between the United States and Pakistan will be on track at least for the next 16 months before he either wins or loses the election in November. I'm just being very specific
Do
on
you
this
think
issue.
these two leaders will gel together and come up with some sort of a viable solution, sir? For
The
a lot of
solution
issues,
is
domestic
there.
issues as well
The
as...
solution is there. The issue is what happens after the withdrawal of U.S. forces. I mean, what would be the share of the Afghan Taliban over there in the government? There has to be some election. The constitution has to be rewritten. There's a plethora on the plate at the present time. So I'm being very specific that this is a real issue. November elections, a major diplomatic victory for Trump, a major diplomatic victory for Pakistan, because we need United States out of Afghanistan. Remember, in the last 16 years, I remember almost everybody who has spoken on this issue, including Musharraf, United States cannot leave Afghanistan, there'll be a disaster. Well, someday countries have to leave. And Afghans have their own way of settling the issues. I hate to use that phrase because that involves bloodshed. I'll be very candid.
That's what everybody is trying to
No,
avoid,
but
sir. That civil war-like situation there, sir.
No, but the issue is, if you directly deal with Taliban, Afghan Taliban, settle the issue with them, just like 1996, soon there'll be a situation that will be likely to improve. But if you ignore them altogether, and I'm glad this road is not going that way. So my comment is that this meeting in Washington is very important. Number two, we do have major stake, as far as military and defense issues and economic assistance is concerned. If you remember when Trump first spoke on the issue of Pakistan, he literally dumped us through his rhetoric. He said, hey, I'm going to cut off this country's aid, $2 billion, whatever he's talked about. Now I'm going to stop all the assistance. They don't deserve it, just like any other country.
1.5 years ago, I still remember,
Yeah,
1st of January last year, 2018,
Yeah.
there was a tweet and he said, well, we have given them $33 billion.
But hold on for 1 second. Even early this year, at 3 a.m. when I was watching him on CNN, and I've said it many times on your show, he, in response to an Indian reporter's question, he said, Pakistan did this and that, but then for the first time, he used the phrase, I'm prepared to work with Pakistan. And probably in a week or 10 days, the letter from White House was here in Islamabad, in quest for peace and in Afghanistan and the withdrawal of US forces. So it has become a very constructive relationship pertaining particularly to the Afghan situation. Then we have to use that, to our advantage. You need, let me be very, 1, 2, 3. You need, no matter, we had another gentleman from the Air Force in the last program. This silly civilian was talking about weapons and the procurement of weapons, and nobody spoke about it. You need 2 straight, F-16s squadrons from the United States. You got to start working on that, because our Air Force lacks high-tech aircraft. It's a very difficult situation.
Well,
Nobody
the
talks
enemy is
about it.
buying all
Hold on for 1
sorts of
second.
high-tech
$2
planes.
billion that they have to release anyway. In addition to that, AHIZ helicopters, they are standing there, parked somewhere on one of the ports, along with Hellfire missiles, plus high-tech agreement on trade, which is very important because more than financial assistance, it is trade that's going to change. Although we are not prepared for major trade with
market
any
access
country
you're talking
because our
about primarily.
productivity is very
All
low,
right, all right.
but we have to go there.
All right. Now another important point, sir, regarding the BRI project and CPEC. That is something which the Americans cannot digest at the moment, sir. They do understand that China, they had a plan and they've executed it so well that the Americans were sort of astonished, sir. Now this CPEC, since that is, because when you look at the total formation of SCO, sir, you'll see only one country opposing it, and that is India. And technically speaking, I think the maximum benefit from CPEC or BRI, India can get actually. And this is what their non-governmental, I would say, decision makers do understand. Now, in this case, when the Prime Minister is going to go there and we will present our case, do you think, sir, that is also going to be a major issue?
Well, if the subject of CPEC comes up in the discussion, particularly with President Trump, then Pakistan has to make the Americans realize that CPEC project is essential to the economic future of Pakistan. And without this project, and without its different dimensions relation to connectivity, the regional countries cannot come together. So in that context, Pakistan has to rescue CPEC project for its own interest from the American unjustified criticism of CPEC. So once the Americans realize that CPEC is not a project which is anti-American, but it is a project which is centers on
primarily, Dr. Saab, this is the Chinese expansion plan, and that's what
no
actually
it is. It has a geopolitical dimension. It through this project and through BRI, through the Belt and Road Initiative, the Chinese are trying to challenge the American entrenched position in the international system. But when you talk about CPEC, then CPEC is essential for Pakistan's economic growth. Now the larger question is that if the Americans want to impose a trade or an investment embargo on Pakistan, then what are the options for Pakistan? So that is something that the Americans have to realize, and I think that nobody can do a better advocacy on CPEC for Pakistan than the Prime Minister Imran Khan. So there are a lot of misconceptions that the Americans have about what CPEC's geopolitical, geoeconomic intent is, and it is time for through this high-level engagement with the American leadership that Pakistan can explain its program, its participation in the CPEC. That's one. Number two, I think it's absolutely critical that Pakistan should raise it with the Americans that your effort to sanction Iran and all the countries who are willing to do business with Iran will get hurt. Is that in your larger economic interest? So if
they have imposed the maximum sanctions on Iranians, sir.
But is sanctions is the only way to deal with the issue of Iran, or there can be a willingness whereby the Americans can revisit their approach towards sanction-oriented approach towards Iran and come up with a cooperative security framework which will allow both countries space to work with each other. So I think it is in that context the Prime Minister Imran Khan should be focusing his discussion with the American leadership should the issue of CPEC or Iran come up. But then ultimately this visit is going to be the trust building between the two countries. There has been a large deficit as a result of which the Americans have misconceptions, they have complaints, they have grievances, but none of those.
So do we.
No, but we do have a long list of grievances, and some of the factors have been mentioned by Ambassador Saab. But we need to move beyond that. So it's a visit which looks at the future horizon of Pakistan-American ties, and in that context, I think if there's a confidence building exercise that is undertaken, and there's a trust deficit reduction possibilities, And if the two countries can move in that direction, I think the purpose of this visit would have been eminently served. But once you have the building of the broken trust relationship between Islamabad and Washington, then it opens the way for the two countries to cooperate with each other, including Pakistan's strategic cooperation that America needs in order to extricate itself from Afghanistan.
Now, sir, trust deficit. Unfortunately, that is the reality, sir. They believe that, maybe we haven't been telling them the truth. And we also believe that they have also betrayed us. And they might do that again. And the only partner internationally we have is China. So we are getting into the eastern camp now, sir. Or we've almost gotten there. Russians, they have been meeting with the chief of army staff, sir. Very regular meetings. And then along with that foreign minister also in there. And then there seems to be very interesting that the Prime Minister and Mr. Vladimir Putin. So primarily, sir, it seems that, that maybe that's a military agenda or whatever that is. But creating a balance between the East and the West now, that is going to be another challenge for the Prime Minister, sir. Do you think that is going to be an easy task, or if there are any issues or any bone of contention for that matter, what that would be, sir?
I think we should have clarity in our minds what we are up to. With regard to China, we have traditional relationship with China. It's not even during the Cold War, where while we were in the American camp, we had best of the relationship with China. And therefore, that's why it became the reason for our becoming a bridge between the United States and China, which ultimately facilitated to establishing of diplomatic relations between China and the United States. So we should not forget that. And I think the best thing which has happened to Pakistan during the past 7 decades is its friendship with China. And I think that in our policymakers, irrespective of the governments, they have guarded that very jealously. And whatever industrial bases you have in the country owes it to China. We should not forget that either. And then, more importantly, if we come to this latest initiative, which is CPEC, it is for Pakistan, and it is for the region. And Pakistan, because of its geography, is because there is no other way you can make this BRI initiative successful. So we are the linchpin actually geographically. And then strategically also, because Americans should not forget that it is like a second Marshall Plan for the world, because, and especially in a situation where the world economy is going down, China is going to spend $700 billion into the BRI initiative. This kind of money is not available with the United States. United States owes $2.5 trillion to China. So I think the Americans,
that's humongous.
so Americans will finally realize,
yeah?
Americans will finally realize that ultimately BRI is going to benefit the United States, because half of the United States industry is located in China, and they are going to benefit it. And let me also tell you, with just CPEC, right now the Chinese trade with the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, is close to $150 billion. In another 5 to 10 years, that is going to be between $350 to $400 billion. This is just, we are talking about once those projects are completed inside Pakistan. I mean roads, rail links, and airports.
Other infrastructure projects.
All infrastructures. So it's a win-win situation for the Americans as well, and for the rest. So that is why the European countries have also joined the BRI initiative. So it's not that it would be pressure on Pakistan not to do that. So there are 80 plus countries which are part of this initiative. So Americans cannot tell Pakistan what to do, what not to do, especially when they don't have an alternate to suggest to Pakistan, whether it is in economic terms, whether it is in defense terms, or whether it is in other areas which we.
Ambassador, have you ever taken any sort of dictation from the Americans?
No, don't think. Okay, had we been taking those dictations, we would not have been a nuclear power.
Yeah, that's one very separate
No, that
chapter.
is very substantive part. Because of this nuclear issue, Iran is facing all the pressures. Because of this nuclear issue, North Korea, but North Korea, Korea ultimately withdrew from the NPT. We were lucky not to be the part of the NPT. So you think that Americans would have allowed Pakistan to become a nuclear power?
No
Not
way.
at all. No way. So yes, we have committed mistakes, and that's why we are independent. Otherwise, had Americans been dictating everything, so they would have also guaranteed our security. We would have been another Japan. Would have been another Korea. We would have another NATO states.
Despite
is my
being
argument
the non-NATO ally, sir. Still, I mean, they have imposed sanctions
No,
on
that
Pakistan.
is,
I mean,
whatever,
something-
whatever title they have given. The issue is we have been independent. That's why we committed mistakes. And we had to pay dearly, whether it is East Pakistan becoming Bangladesh or other. But we committed mistakes. But at the same time, after East Pakistan becoming Bangladesh, I think there was a vow that never again. And I think ultimately, thanks to India, when they became nuclear, we became nuclear.
Pirzada Saab, mistakes we all make, but for example, when you talk about Pak-China friendship or the CPEC project or the BRI, whether you talk about Zardari Saab or Pakistan People's Party, I interviewed him and he said this was my initiative basically. I mean, the initiative was always there, but I really made sure that this should, take place. Nawaz Sharif Saab, I mean, during the last 5 years when they had their own government, only thing when it comes to economy, what we heard was about CPEC. Now Imran Khan Saab again says, so this means that all the political parties are on the same footing, when it comes to CPEC or China for that matter. But now, sir, if you read certain articles or you just review what's going on, you will see, sir, that the inclination of Pakistan is getting a little too much towards China. I'm not saying that we are keeping all our eggs in one basket now, but that equilibrium now seems to be a little on the eastern side. It's a little like this.
And that is quite natural.
Now, always, do you think, sir, this visit is going to create some sort of balance or no?
Not at all. Here is the reality about the relations between Pakistan and the United States. It will always be transactional. There will never be a permanent strategic partnership like they have established, at least as we have seen with India.
With India, yeah.
It doesn't work like this is not going to happen. The two countries are so far different, and due to the emergence now of China as a major economic and technological power on the world stage, things have changed altogether. Pakistan's strategic axis has changed, as it used to be once with Washington. It has changed for all practical purposes to Beijing. And then other smaller countries and the other nuclear superpower, Russia, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, although it's a great partner of the United States, that we have our own relationship. So we have established a certain level of relationships between these 4 or 5 countries, particularly with a special focus, on Beijing. So the natural movement of the direction of foreign policy of Pakistan and that of our national interest towards Beijing, that is going to be a permanent feature. I don't see any sane future ruler of Pakistan would ever try to change that, nor it should. God has given this country a natural opportunity from across the Himalayas that you have a power that is not an expansionist power in the military sense, military expansionism. The country, we are the only 2 countries that can claim to be friends, actually. This is an amazing thing in Asia, in particular, friends. It's not like United States and Japan and United States and South Korea. There's a forced military presence over there on a permanent basis.
But they say
I
that
mean,
there are
it's so
no
hard for
permanent
those
friends or
countries.
foes in diplomacy.
I'm sorry?
It's not about that they're two friends, as like two men have friends, right?
Look.
Two friends it's like two countries cannot be friends, because the only thing which matters is the interest, and Chinese have a lot of interest here, sir.
All friendships, let me change, you abandon the phrase friendship. This is a partnership that is going to stay, that is here to stay. And it is because of the massive advancement of China that we are lucky that we'll be benefiting from it. I hope if we are wise, we should be able to import technology, expand upon that technology, and try to solidify our own economic, military, and technological footing in this country. But that's on us. As far as they are concerned, they're giving us everything, from space down to submarines, everything. And from this Belt and Road Initiative, CPEC, everything is coming over here. We cast shadows of doubt for no reason. So for the United States, again, the golden, a piece of wisdom is, so I think, how can you not say that it will be a transactional relationship? So for the next 16 months, I would say, take advantage of the situation, get them out of the Afghanistan, expand yourself, deepen your roots in Afghanistan, so with Afghan Taliban, so you can help them constructively, not be dominant with them. You understand what I'm saying? So this is in our interest. Number two, look, as far as this US president is concerned, we were talking about the unpredictability. Yes, but there is a predictability also over there. Take the case of his policy towards Russia. He has stuck to his policy in Russia. He has denigrated his own agencies. He has scuttled the summaries and the recommendations by his departments about Russia and their interference in the election. He simply sticks to his position. He is the Secretary of State, as I said in the last program. He is the Defense Minister. He is the intelligence chief. He is the CIA chief. All of the people are working for him. Anytime he wants, he overrules them, and he overrules them patently through
And he's done that
those silly
multiple
morning
times.
tweets. So this man is working with you. Work with him. Do not play any game. Be serious on Afghanistan. And through the prism of Afghanistan, take whatever the advantage you can. If he loses election, this man Biden, if he comes to power, he will not be very helpful, or he will not be an asset to Pakistan.
Well, Joe Biden is also very seasoned, I would say, politician.
Yeah, for
sir.
United States, yes.
So everyone is for their own country. That's the best part. It should be like that.
I'm saying this man has a little different approach. Use him.
He is also looking inward, sir.
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
And that's to your advantage.
He says America first. So the cases with Imran Khan, he says Pakistan first. See, so one has to look after their own interests. That's more important. Now, sir, last couple of minutes are left. So if you put this visit on a scale of 1 to 10, sir, and as far as the expectations are concerned, obviously a lot of expectations, sir. Oh, well, Imran Khan is going to meet Donald Trump for the first time, and both are pretty recognized politicians, I would say, sir. Obviously, Donald Trump because of America, and Imran Khan because of its own personality and its own presence. Now, the DG ISI is visiting USA along with the Chief of Army Staff also, sir. Foreign Minister is going to be there too. So the four major decision makers, I would say. You see, sir, that if everything goes smoothly, everything goes fine, obviously they have done their homework. They must be at the optimal level regarding their own approach as well. Do you think 6-7 is going to be the success mark, sir?
Well, if you want to be conservative, you could give it 5. If you want to be more optimistic, you could give it 7 to 8. But the crucial factor, in my judgment, is going to be how the Americans approach their relationship with Pakistan and what is going to be the content of the conversation between President Trump and Prime Minister Imran Khan. And in that context, what strengthens Imran Khan's hand is the presence of the DG ISI and the Army Chief, because traditionally the Americans were able to exploit this civil-military, so-called civil-military divide in their relationship and play one against the other. But now by taking these army chief and DG ISI with him, Imran Khan has ensured that Pakistan is able to present a unified case about Afghanistan and whatever agenda item that will be that are going to be the subject of conversation. So which means that the Americans will not be able to play one against the other. That's one. The other, I think, the most important thing is going to be the element of unpredictability, because if there is a risk that if Pakistan promises too much to deliver on Afghanistan,
And if we couldn't?
and if we cannot, then the blame is going to return to Pakistan. So I think we have to build in a
Calculated moves, basically.
calculated moves, and we should not be promising anything more than what is within
What we
our
can do.
reach.
Sir, quick comment and then over to you, sir. Same point, sir.
Well, I think I tend to agree. I mean, it is we have to be optimistic, but at the same time, we should be cautiously optimistic about the situation, because the United States is in dire straits in Afghanistan, and they would be expecting some more facilitation from Pakistan.
All right.
And Pakistan has done it. Pakistan will do it, but at the same time, Pakistan has to warn them about the spoilers inside Afghanistan.
spoilers, yeah, obviously, yeah.
Inside Afghanistan and outside Afghanistan.
All right.
So if United States can take care of those spoilers, then I think we can say Afghanistan will return to peace.
Closing remarks from you, Pirzada sir.
I do want to make a reference to earlier discussion, brief discussion about a reference to Iran. I think we should not raise the issue of Iran at all. This is none of our business. United States is doing it, and they don't think that Pakistan has a stature that it can come and intervene on that major
Today,
issue.
they've shot down
we
a
should
drone of
not.
Iran.
Number two, our relationship with Iran is not very ideal. So just stay at a distance, stay out of it, let them deal with it. And Iran is quite capable of doing whatever the way it does things. Let them do it. As far as Afghanistan is concerned, let me just say one last word. The United States and Afghan Taliban are directly dealing with each other. This is one major success in which we have been of assistance. This is the way we should look at it.
All right.
And in this process, if we can add as much as we can, that is the most important
All
thing.
right. All right,
And
sir.
see if you can help them in the post-withdrawal
All right, sir.
process.
All right. Thank you very much, Pirzada sir. Ryan sir, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Dr. Saab. And that's all we have for this particular hour, but we'll continue our transmission from 3 to 4 as well. Stay with us.